For this video, you're going to have to forget everything you knew about Australia's wildlife. You probably think that the biggest, fiercest, most aggressive, and most terrifying animal is the boss of the ecosystem. Well, let me tell you that in this case, you're wrong. The big eat the small, the fast outrun the slow, and the soft-bodied stay afraid. That rule is held for hundreds of millions of years, across almost every reef and trench on the planet. But in the shallow tide pools along the southern coast of Australia, that rule quietly breaks. There is something living in those pools that sharks swim around, that the cleverest hunters in the sea refuse to touch, and that other octopuses will starve rather than challenge. It is not large, it is not fast, and it has no shell, no spines, and no armor of any kind. It is an octopus the size of a golf ball, light enough to rest in the palm of your hand, and it carries enough of one of the deadliest substances known to science to stop the hearts of 26 grown adults. And the strangest part, the part that should genuinely unsettle you, is that by the time this animal shows you its warning, it is already far too late to do anything about it. To understand why a creature this small terrifies animals that could swallow it without even noticing, you have to start with the weapon, because the weapon is the entire story, and it is far stranger than anyone expects. The animal is called the blue-ringed octopus, and there are 4 species of it haunting Australian waters, the most infamous being the southern blue-ringed octopus, Hapaloclaena maculosa. On a normal day, it is almost invisible. It drifts through rock pools in dull browns and yellows, a small, soft, unremarkable thing that you could step over 100 times without a second glance. Its body is barely the size of a golf ball, and even with its arms fully extended, it rarely measures more than 20 centimeters across. By every visual measure that the ocean usually rewards, it is prey. It looks like a snack, and that is exactly the point, because what it carries inside is completely out of proportion to its size. The poison in its saliva is called tetrodotoxin, and you may already have a passing familiarity with it, because it is the same toxin that makes pufferfish so dangerous to eat. But familiarity does not make it any less terrifying. Tetrodotoxin works by jamming the sodium channels in your nerves, the tiny molecular gates that let your nervous system fire its signals at all. When those gates seal shut, your nerves simply stop talking to your muscles. The result is total paralysis, spreading through the body until it reaches the muscles that run your lungs, at which point you stop breathing. And the worst part of all this is that this poison holds a dark secret. Tetrodotoxin does not touch the brain. Throughout the process, the victim remains completely aware of everything, fully conscious, totally unable to move, breathe, or even speak to ask for help. You are trapped inside a body that has gone silent around you. There is no antidote. There has never been an antidote. The only treatment is a machine that breathes for you, around the clock, until your body slowly clears the poison on its own, and you simply wait to find out whether your nervous system comes back online. To put the sheer potency in context, gram for gram, tetrodotoxin is estimated to be somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 times more lethal than cyanide, not slightly more dangerous. Over 1,000 times. And a single blue-ringed octopus, an animal you could close your fist around, carries enough of it to kill roughly 26 adult humans in a single sitting. We will come back to that number later, and to the small handful of people who learned what it means firsthand, because the human side of this story is the part that closes the whole thing off. But first, there is something even harder to believe than the poison itself, and it is the question of where the poison actually comes from, because the octopus does not make it. The most lethal venom in the ocean by weight is not manufactured by the animal that delivers it. Instead, the blue-ringed octopus farms colonies of symbiotic bacteria inside its salivary glands, and those bacteria produce the tetrodotoxin for it. Sit with that for a second. This animal has formed a working partnership with microscopic organisms, a quiet alliance millions of years in the making, and the entire arrangement exists to produce one of the most efficient killing molecules nature has ever assembled. The octopus provides a home, and the bacteria provide a chemical weapon. It is one of the strangest collaborations in the animal kingdom, and it means that the most dangerous thing in the tide pool is, in a sense, not even a single creature. It is a living factory. Just like a rattlesnake rattles its tail or a wasp paints itself in bold black and yellow, it is reasonable to think that a weapon so lethal and dangerous would be visible or carry some kind of warning. And you're actually not entirely wrong. This brings us to the famous blue rings. When the octopus feels a real threat, dozens of iridescent blue rings come to life all over its skin, flashing with a fluorescent glow that is unmistakable, beautiful, and without a doubt, a warning sign. The problem, if you are a predator, is the timing. Those rings only appear when the animal is already alarmed, and they snap on in about 0.3 of a second, far faster than most attackers can process and pull away. And the bite that follows is the cruelest detail of all, because it is completely painless. There are documented human cases of people who were bitten and never felt a thing, who only realized what had happened when their mouth went numb, or their vision blurred, or their limbs stopped answering. The warning, in other words, comes too late to matter, and the strike leaves no immediate pain to learn from, which means a predator cannot do the one thing predators rely on. It cannot make a mistake, survive it, and remember the lesson. With this animal, the first mistake is usually the last. So, if you cannot receive a warning in time and you cannot learn from a near miss, there is only one strategy left: avoid it entirely. This is exactly what the ocean's inhabitants have done, from a simple crustacean to the fiercest predators. Now we are going to climb that ladder, predator by predator, and I promise you it gets more incredible with every rung. Let's start at the bottom, with the crab, because the crab is where the natural order of things flips completely upside down. In almost every shallow marine ecosystem on Earth, a crab is a threat to a small octopus. Crabs are armored, they are aggressive, and they carry claws strong enough to crack shells and sever limbs. A small, soft octopus is precisely the kind of meal a large crab is built to take. But in these Australian pools, the relationship runs the other way, and it runs the other way violently. The blue-ringed octopus hunts crabs, including crabs several times its own size, and it does so with an ease that borders on casual. It will drift over to a crab many times its mass, a crab whose claws could crush it instantly, and it does not wrestle, it does not struggle, and it does not take any real risk at all. It simply delivers the bite. Within seconds, the crab freezes, its claws locked in a defense it never got to use, and the octopus settles in to feed at its leisure while its prey remains alive and aware and utterly unable to resist. Picture that for a moment. A heavily armored animal, equipped with weapons that could end the fight in one motion, reduced to a paralyzed statue by something it should have been eating. That single image tells you everything about how badly this octopus breaks the rules, and we have not even left the shallows yet. Climb up one rung and you reach the octopus's own relatives, and here the story takes a quieter, but somehow more chilling turn. Those same tide pools are home to larger octopuses, including the common Sydney octopus, animals that dwarf the blue-ringed and that are perfectly capable of killing and eating smaller cephalopods. Octopuses are not gentle with one another. Cannibalism among octopuses is well documented, and a hungry octopus will absolutely make a meal of a smaller cousin given the chance. And yet there is no record of the common octopus preying on the blue-ringed. They share the same pools, they cross the same hunting grounds, and the larger, stronger animal simply leaves the smaller one alone. Think about what that means. This is not a predator from another world failing to recognize the danger. This is a close relative, an animal that hunts octopuses for a living, that has apparently learned to give this particular cousin a wide berth. When even your own family decides you are not worth the risk, you are operating on a level very few animals ever reach. For the next one, we are entering dangerous territory. This predator is not only powerful, it is one of the most intelligent creatures in the ocean and could finish you off if it wanted to. We are talking about dolphins, specifically the bottlenose dolphins that patrol Australian coastal waters. And to understand why their behavior matters so much, you first have to understand how clever they are with ordinary octopuses. Octopuses are difficult and dangerous prey, even when they are not venomous. They have strong arms, they can grip and suffocate, and a large one can be a genuine hazard to a dolphin that swallows it carelessly. So dolphins in these waters have developed something remarkable. When they catch a normal octopus, they do not simply eat it, they process it. They will toss it repeatedly across the surface of the water, slam it down, and rub it against the sand for minutes on end, working methodically to break down the animal, neutralize its defenses, and strip away the parts that could harm them on the way down. It is a learned ritual passed between individuals, a piece of genuine animal culture invented specifically to make a hazardous meal safe. These are not blind, instinct-driven hunters. They have engineered a solution to the octopus problem. And here is the beat that should give you pause. With the blue-ringed octopus, they do not even try. The dolphins that built an entire processing technique for ordinary octopuses, the animals smart enough to invent a workaround, do not attempt to apply it here. They leave the blue-ringed alone because no amount of tossing or rubbing can make tetrodotoxin safe, and on some level they appear to know it. There is a sobering case from Western Australia of a dolphin that died after eating an octopus, and while it was never confirmed to be a blue-ringed in that particular instance, the broader pattern of avoidance is real and observable. So consider the full picture. The smartest predators in the entire ocean, intelligent enough to create tools and rituals and pass them down through generations, looked at this one small animal and concluded that the only safe move was to never engage. That is not fear in the way we usually mean it. It is something colder and more rational. It is a calculation, and the calculation always comes out the same. Which finally brings us to the top of the ladder, to the animal in the title, and the one the entire ocean is supposed to fear: the shark. Australian waters are full of them. From wobbegongs lying camouflaged on the seafloor to reef sharks cruising the shallows, and these are the undisputed apex hunters of their world. Nothing is supposed to make a shark hesitate, and for the most part, nothing does. But there are records of sharks avoiding the areas where blue-ringed octopuses are present, steering clear of the exact stretches of shallow water this little animal calls home. And once you look at the numbers, the reason becomes brutally clear. You might be thinking that a shark is enormous, that it could simply eat the octopus whole and shrug off a tiny dose of poison meant for something the size of a crab. It is a fair assumption. It is also completely wrong. The amount of tetrodotoxin required to kill a mid-sized shark is vanishingly small, a quantity you would struggle to even see. And a single blue-ringed octopus carries roughly 50 times that lethal dose. 50 times. There is no margin for error there. No version of the encounter where the shark takes a careful, measured bite and walks away a little wiser. One mouthful is not a risk. It is a death sentence with a 50-fold safety margin in the octopus's favor. So the king of these waters does the only sensible thing a king can do when it meets something it cannot beat. It swims around. The hierarchy of the entire ocean, the one built on size and speed and rows of serrated teeth, stops at the edge of these tide pools, and the most powerful predator in the sea politely declines to enter. And that leaves one predator, the one that closes the circle, the most ruthless predator in the whole world. Can you guess? Well, it's us. Humans are not natural prey for a blue-ringed octopus, and the animal has no interest in us whatsoever. It does not hunt people, it does not seek us out, and the overwhelming majority of encounters end with the octopus trying to escape. We are, in fact, the only predator on this entire ladder clever enough to have studied its venom in a laboratory, to have mapped the molecule, to have understood exactly how it shuts the body down. We are the dominant species on the planet, the one that builds machines and writes the textbooks this animal appears in. And yet, after all of that study, we still have no antidote. And since 1950, there have been around 3 confirmed human deaths from blue-ringed octopus bites. The number is small, mercifully small, and you are far more likely to be hurt by almost anything else at the beach. But the smallness of that number is not the point. The point is that this animal, the size of a golf ball, weighing less than a piece of fruit, carrying borrowed chemistry it did not even invent, is fully capable of killing the most dominant predator the planet has ever produced. It can drop a human being on a sunny afternoon in shallow water with a bite they will never feel, and there is nothing in our entire medical arsenal that can reverse it once it begins. The only thing we can do is keep the body breathing on a machine and hope. So step back and look at the whole picture, because this is where the irony lands with its full weight. The ocean spent hundreds of millions of years building a hierarchy out of size and force, rewarding the biggest jaws and the fastest bodies, teaching every animal in it to fear whatever was larger than itself. And then, in a handful of quiet pools off the coast of Australia, all of that machinery simply stops working. The crab that should be the hunter becomes the meal. The cousin that eats octopuses for a living backs away. The dolphin that outthinks every other prey refuses to think about this one. The shark that fears nothing makes an exception. And the human that conquered the entire planet still cannot build the one cure that would make this animal safe. At the beginning of the video, we said that you would have to forget everything you knew about Australia's wildlife for a second, and that's exactly how it went. Because the deadliest thing in the water is not the fastest, or the largest, or the strongest. It is the smallest and the calmest, the one that evolved in such a way that it never needed any of those things to win. And it carries its lethal warning in rings of light that only ever appear when the lesson is already too late to learn. There is one part of this story we have not told yet, and it is the part that genuinely keeps marine biologists up at night. We have talked about what the tetrodotoxin does, but not about the exact minute-by-minute sequence of how it takes a fully healthy body apart from the inside and what the few survivors have described feeling while it happened to them. That breakdown deserves its own video rather than a rushed paragraph here. So if that is something you want to see in full, tell us in the comments, and we will build it. Because the truth is, the blue-ringed octopus is not even the most efficient killer hiding in Australia. It is simply the one that lives in the water, the one that lives on land, the one that can survive being submerged, crushed, and frozen and still deliver a bite that defies modern medicine is waiting in our next story. They call it the funnel web spider, and what makes it nearly impossible to kill is a great deal harder to believe than anything you just heard.